Makes sense.
I don't like being tight either. High chair.
He's just a chair.
Yeah, I feel like I get you a table when I was a kid.
Yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Just hold on to your new chair, when you go to the conference room, it's like when you go, have your new chair. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to confuse people. You could be Nancy and he was Samuel.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine Notice. This meeting is called pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of February the 10th was sent to the Central Record, Burlington County Times, and Courier Post, posted on the bulletin board in Town Hall, and has remained continuously posted as required notice of the statute. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. We have roll call. Mr. Barton.
Present.
Ms. McGinnis. Here. Mr. Moore.
Present.
Mr. Sunbury.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here.
Thank you.
This time I'd like to open the floor to public comment. Please raise your name. Once you are identified, come forward, state your name and address for the record. We have a 3-minute countdown clock so you can actually see where you are with your time. When your time has expired or when you're finished, please return to your seat and we will take notations of any questions and comments that you make to be addressed. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Stuart Brooks, Moores Meadow Road. Over the last 3 or 4 public meetings, I and others have asked why all official email addresses of committee aren't posted on the committee's official web page. And I haven't received a response from anyone on committee. As a result, my wife and I sent emails to all the committee members, and thank you, Mr. Sunbury, for responding to the one. You referred me to Mr. Kramer, who then informed my wife and I that emails are posted at the committee member's request. Shortly thereafter, I was glad to see that Committee Woman McGinnis and Committee Man Sunbury posted their address, their official website address on the web page. That leaves you, Mr. Moore, as the only committee member who hasn't posted their official address on the web page, making it that much more difficult for people to get in touch with you. I know where you live, we're practically neighbors. It's not a problem for me, but there are many more people than me in Tabernacle, and it just makes so much obvious sense that I think it's worth my time to go into it. But the question to you, Mr. Moore, is it's been over a year. Why haven't you posted your address? Other questions I have, when was this policy of posting on request adopted or even discussed? I've been at every meeting and it's never been addressed. Why didn't you mention this when the issue was raised, often by me, 3 or 4 or 5 times over the last month or 2? Why did I have to go through all the effort of contacting each of you individually to get Mr. Kramer to give me the answer? What's the reason for allowing some people not to post? There's so much benefit in allowing, in insisting that people post. And I guess the question for former Mayor Barton and current Mayor Brown is, since you two handle answering the questions on behalf of the committee, how come you didn't answer it every time I asked it? And the corollary for the rest of the committee members is, you guys have just as much power as the mayor and the deputy mayor. You guys got voices and minds of your own. How come you guys didn't mention it either? It's just a poor way to run government. It's a criticism, and I think a well-deserved one. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Mrs. Brooks?
Good evening, Fran Brooks, Morris Meadow Road. I want to just make a quick statement about the public comment period before committee reports. Again, this is a purposeless effort. If you really believe in transparency and accountability, you would put the public comment after committee reports. The only conclusion that we can reach is that you don't believe in accountability and transparency. You would allow if you did, you would allow the public comment to follow committee reports, so you don't really care about what people have to say during, in response to the committee reports. These actions don't make Tabernacle look very good. I've gotten a lot of responses regarding this matter, and don't make you guys personally look very good. So you might want to rethink the decision that has been espoused by Mayor Brown with no comment from the rest of the committee regarding the position of public comment before committee reports. The other question, a couple other things regarding closed session. Is the special counsel / conflict attorney, Mr. Burns, under contract now? If he isn't under contract, is he participating at the executive session meeting tonight? And if he's not under contract, has he been working without a contract? And is Mr. Burns going to bill Tabernacle according to the comptroller's legal billing best practices? So there are 4 questions there, Mrs. Brown. And the last point that I'd like to bring up is on January 15, 2020, I received a 5-page letter in response to an open request that I submitted that contained nothing but a request for conventional documents. We're talking about documents such as RFPs. These are public records. And what I got back was this extended, and these are actually what was in this, except for one item, all of the items in this open request I've asked for before, and there's never been a need to produce a 5-page document. I'd like to know if Ms. Barber actually wrote this document. I'd like to know if she actually wrote it, and if she didn't write it, who wrote it? And had we already been billed for this ridiculous response that I received? That is totally unnecessary. I would suggest that for 3 people who are sitting on this committee, Mr. Moore, you, Ms. McGinnis, and you, Mr. Sunbury, that you get yourselves well-wedded in the Oprah law and the OPMA law, and learn something about it, so that in the future you will be able to evaluate a document like this
I appreciate your comment.
effectively.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Reports, engineer?
Just a reminder that bids will be received on February 26th for the 2020 road program. So we should have hopefully the ability to award at your first meeting following that. And we'll have the bid results prior to.
All right, thank you. Mr. Haynes? I know you're not listed, but I'm still going to recognize you.
Nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Kramer?
I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Thomas Boyd and the men of the Public Works Department for the work they did over this last month, getting this room set up and building the dais and the Sean's area and getting the room set up. I'd like to take this opportunity to give all of them a big thank you. excellent job they did.
Mr. Lang?
The committee will see in the packet the proposed revisions to Chapter 10, the mobile homes, parks and trailer parks. Most of the proposed revisions are to Section 10-1.8. I'd like to facilitate a conversation concerning that at our next workshop, and so I bring that to your attention.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to respond to Mr. Brooks, an email that he sent me. Mr. Brooks, the email that he sent me asked me why the other committee members didn't have an email. I can't speak for them, so I didn't reply. I didn't see a need to reply because I thought your question should have been directed to them, and I believe you did direct that same question to them. As far as my personal email, with my name in front of it for the township, which I've had since I've been on committee, Doug and LaShawn, I'm seriously considering changing that. What I'd like you to do is check with our IT people. Is there a way that you could come up with an email address similar to me receiving U.S. mail here at Town Hall, where it would be just a committee address without my name attached to it? And if any other committee members would want to participate in it, they could have access, hopefully, to that email box. It would be like a drop box, so I would have an opportunity to see any emails that were coming. If they're addressed to me specifically in that box, I'll be happy to call that person back or interact with that person or do it at a future committee meeting. I don't see a need for me to have a personal email, and also I will not be replying from that email box. It basically will be no different, if it's possible through IT, it'll be no different than the U.S. mailbox coming here with my name on it. So if you could look into that and see if that's possible, I think that's how I would like to proceed in the future. And if any other committee members wanted to participate, if there's a way possible, I would invite them to do the same. Other than that, Doug, I agree with you. Mr. Boyd, your Public Works did a wonderful job with the building. Security is also forefront, and the building, while we hope nothing bad ever happens, now is secured. It's open to the public, yet Natalie now is in a secured area, correct?
That is correct.
Right, and then we have offices now for our court administrator, right, and our land development board person. So I like it, Doug. You did a nice job. I know that they're all portable, right, so they can all be moved and moved around. I like, is this maple? Is that?
Sugar maple.
Sugar maple? I like the sugar maple desk, and again, thank you for making our town hall a little more comfortable. That's all I have, man.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Okay. First off, same thing, Doug. It looks really nice. It's nice having a nice touch up here. You folks did a wonderful job in Tom on it. To answer Mr. Brooks's question, it's my choice. I do not have an email. I have not had an email since probably beginning, I don't want to say and hold me to it, since probably last spring. It's my choice not to have one. I like everything forwarded through this township, through our clerk, Ms. Barber, she can forward everything to me so we don't get into the dialogue back and forth on email. That's my choice, and that's why I do not have an email address. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. McGinnis?
Hi, I have information to give out. I put out some ideas that would be good for the township, and I'll just put them in form if anybody wants to look at it. I made extra copies.
Can you give this to Ms. Barber?
Sorry. So there's six things that I outlined. One is, I think that we need to bring sewer down to 06 to bring in commercial ratables. We're not going to have any major, we don't have a major tax base here. We need more businesses to support the community. They're not going to use any of our services. And I think it's really, really important that we get sewer into just along sewer 6 and draw some businesses in our town. That's what we talked about before, and I think we need to have a committee put together and look at having it done. I think we need to revise the fine ordinance. Right now we have Murphy's Market pays over $82,000 a year in taxes to our township. It doesn't utilize any of our services. and we support him. If he went out of business, we would be stuck with another empty building. He needs a sign on 206, so he can draw all more business off the highway and in other places in town. And I feel like we should change the sign ordinance and allow him to have a sign on 206. Third thing is, I think if we should, this is my personal opinion, I think we should have the township meetings at the EMS building. I think it's easier for people to get in and out, handicap accessible, bathrooms on the same level, everything's right there. And then we can use this building, have all the offices together, the building inspector's office, tax assessor, tax collector, everybody could be here. That's just my personal opinion. Fourth thing is I think we should make Tabernacle a Second Amendment sanctuary town. And that's the right thing to do, protect our Second Amendment rights, and you should be able, if you can lawfully carry a gun, you should not have to worry about it being taken away. The fifth thing, legal notices, I think that we should have, I think that Pioneers Tribune and the Tabernacle Sun should be allowed to have our, publish our legal notices, and I know right now it can only be newspapers that are subscriber-based, and they are not, because they're free. I think they should be allowed. So I think we should urge the state to change that rule. And the last thing is, I think it would be great if we had a township e-bulletin that would go out like once a week, and to give the residents just notices of what's going on in town, and organizations could publish their information, and it would be open to the public, and if they want to opt in or opt out, they could. And that's it. This is my ideas, and we talk about it and see what everybody agrees with.
Thank you. Let's list this on future agenda.
Okay.
For workshop.
Sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's okay. It's all good. This way, the public also gets to see your ideas.
Okay.
And then when they come to the next workshop, they could offer some comments too. Because that's one of the things that I did say that's why we did that. So things like this, they could see ahead of time. If they have comments that they want to make, they would be able to offer it to us.
Okay.
As we go through our area. So not a problem. Mr. Sun, is that it?
That's it for me. And the town hall looks like through this job.
Mr. Sunbury.
Yes, again, Tom Boyd and the crew did a great job dressing up the room. I'm looking forward to brighter lighting, but I know that's in the works. So thanks, Doug, for overseeing all that. It's real nice, and the wood's lovely. In reference to the emails, there's pros and cons in terms of emails. I have my email because it's necessary for a lot of government communications in which I participate, but I also think it's a big advantage for the committee and the residents as well if the township committee were to have a single point of contact email, so that when emails come in from the residents, they're not picking and choosing which committee member they want to submit information to. We all get the same information, we all get to think about it, and then, as is appropriate, when we're together, we can discuss these things so that committee business is not being done in any way, shape, or form behind the scenes. It should be done in the open. So I think it's a great idea for us to have a shared email box. My personal township email, my public township email, is necessary for fulfillment of government responsibilities. There's sites that I access that literally without a .gov email, I cannot be part of, but I'm required to. So I think Joe's idea is a great idea, that we have a unified email, and that should be the one that's presented to the residents. I think it keeps us all on the same page and doesn't allow people to pick and choose who they want to share information with. It goes to the whole committee, and we can forward it to the appropriate location, whether it's Doug or over to code enforcement and such. Nancy, we'll all take a look at the ideas and talk about those at a later date. I would like, as I've kind of alluded to, I would like at future work sessions to see if we can put a little more strategic planning
in terms of, part of what Nancy was talking about is how to bring some economic development. We don't want to turn this into a downtown Haddonfield, but we do want to have a place that meets the needs of our residents in terms of the services and the retail that they desire, as well as bringing ratables in, trying to bring life back into the Tabernacle Inn. It's just sad to see businesses shuttered or businesses leaving, and as well as what can we do to improve the community for the people that live here, and maybe bring more people in to help shore up the school district. The more families, the more kids, the more money the school district can get. So it's kind of like what I'd like to see us kind of go over time.
Thank you, is that it?
That's it.
And I will actually echo the same comments of the shared email. I like that idea too. I think everyone should have the same information as it comes in. Everybody gets a copy of it, and we go from there. I think that's the best way to handle it. And people can pick up the phone and call a resident. I personally like personal one-on-one conversation versus an email, because an email you can't really get a feel for the tone of which someone's speaking to you in. You can take it the wrong way completely, so I completely agree with that. Just want to put this out here for you guys to think about over the next month. We already received our Carranza Day notification that they're looking for someone to go. It will be held on July 11th, 2020. So think about it, possibly at the next workshop, see who would like to go. And on the 22nd of February, we have a new business opening in the Yates Plaza, 3D physical therapy by one of our own homegrown kids that graduated from the schools around the corner. It's Carly Flake, but I know she has a new last name. And I'm unable to attend. They're having a ribbon cutting, and they would like someone to go. So if someone from the committee could go, and if some of the committee members can stop in over throughout the day just to.
What is the date?
It is next Saturday. It is Saturday, February 22nd. So those are the things. As for the questions that Mrs. Brooks asked about the special counsel, I will answer those questions later because we are going into executive session to discuss personnel matters. So I will answer that question at a later time. And at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session, resolution number CS 02102020.
Before you do that, I had a question for Mr. Guzzi.
Okay.
Dan, this has to do with Yates Plaza, and I don't have to respond to it, but could you check with Mr. Boyd and make sure all the conditions of approval before that business opens are completed?
Yes, we've been working with Tom and with the applicant too to make sure that that's been happening. So far, everything is, they've been following up on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
Can I ask one question, Peter, with regard to Chapter 10?
Chapter 10?
Yeah, the question I had, Peter, is in that, for Chapter 10, the ability for spouses to cohabitate if the one spouse is 55.
Oh, you're talking about that,
Yeah.
that's scheduled for a workshop.
Okay.
That way, the residents will also get to see it and be able to pose their questions.
Yeah, I just had a question on verbiage. But my question was, it specifically addresses spouses, and in my experience, there's a lot of senior citizens, especially ex-military, that are, let's say, cohabitating because if they get married, they would lose benefits so if they remarry. I was just wondering if there's any room for flexibility in that, in terms of, whether or not you refer to it as just a married couple or people that are living together.
Yeah, you certainly can accommodate that, if that's what you're seeking to do. And so we can field that question and suggest language when we try to finalize this at a workshop. But absolutely, if you feel that's important, you can accommodate that.
Non-traditional living arrangements, which are becoming more traditional.
Yeah, we wouldn't want the purposes of the ordinance to be defeated based on failure to include those in that way. So I understand that, yeah.
Everybody know?
Good. I think we're good.
No more last Okay. So can I have a motion to go into executive session for resolution CS 02?
So moved.
Second.
Finished with resolution, but okay, but to discuss contract negotiation update with the Tabernacle Fire Company number 1, litigation matter Graham Brooks versus the Township of Tabernacle, and a personnel matter regarding terms and conditions with the conflict attorney and special counsel.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. McGinnis? Yes. Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Sunbury?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, at this time we will adjourn to the end.
Mayor Brown, when you reconvene, you'll be answering my questions as well.
When we reconvene, we will,
Yeah, you said you'd be answering Fran's questions. I also asked questions. No?
your questions were about, I think everyone understood the questions.
No, the question I asked are multiple. I wanted to know why no one mentioned this policy of posting it in the flag. Why did no one say anything?
We'll follow up this later, we're going into executive session.
That's fine.
Or you're not getting any funding until tell her to
I'm sorry. I really don't know.
Everybody just shake their hand.
Circle back around. Make sure.
Really? How many there were?
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Job had the other day. I was on duty for 15 minutes, Jeff Job. Jeff now.
Yes.
Well, it's funny because I got the initial text message that, hey, this is what happened. And then I see this thing later. I took my phone, so then I caught up with the whole thing later. I thought, I didn't realize it was shot. But I should have seen it.
Maybe?
Yeah, the scoop.
Maybe?
Okay, I like that. Me too.
we weren't told to leave. We weren't given permission to leave.
You get on the overtime.
Sun will come out one day.
I want to let you go ahead.
Great.
So this way I'll block you with your visible tight back up. Something underneath.
Yep.
go. All right, we're going to be back in regular session. Coming out of executive session, we discussed just an update on the committee as to where we were with the current status of the contract negotiations with the fire company and what's been discussed with them. I'd also like to remind the fire company that we're still waiting on the audit. We'd like that as soon as possible, please.
2018.
The 2018 audit, yes. That would be the 2018 audit. One of the other items discussed in executive session was our conflict attorney. Our conflict attorney was under contract, or is under contract, but has moved to a different firm and is requesting the committee to consider going to follow the conflict attorney with the firm he's going to. So that was discussions, that's contract negotiations. We're going to have this put on our agenda for the next meeting. Also, in response to Mrs. Brooks's questions, the other question she had was about the 5-page document. Miss Barber did write the document. And our attorney does follow the comptroller's best practices. And Mr. Brooks, as far as the committee is concerned when it comes to emails, it's not a policy, it's a committee's preference. So whether the committee member chooses to utilize email or not, that is the reason either they do or they don't. It's their personal preference. We do not have a policy. That's why a policy's never been discussed, because we just don't have one. So if you misunderstood it as a policy, it is not a policy. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstentions?
Everybody said aye.
Yeah, that's so much that we stayed
All those engineers do that.
A lot of the engineers I used to know would give us, say, get up these towns.
He's tough, well, he's tough.
Yeah, you can give him a little bit of information.